People, I guess they're going to come in when they see it. I don't have a built-in audience yet. I'm just starting out with this whole streaming thing. But oh man, it's so fascinating. It really is open communication in a way that never really existed to this degree. You've got historians talking about, the Republic of Letters in the 18th century. But you could say the Republic of Letters has been replaced by the democracy of screens. Parents may complain about screen time, but I don't know. I think that's kind of a categorical error. Screens are not black holes. Screens are portals to other people, to history. And that is something history lovers have to seriously engage with from both directions, from the scholarly direction and from the enthusiast direction. People are interested. They want to learn. They want to engage. The problem, well, it's severalfold. They tend to want to engage, to have their good feelings, spouted back at them. It's mostly, we are the good guys of history. Or at the very least, we are the good guys of history was actually probably a good way to go. That is, that history is narrative. And in a way, that's true. I mean, we humans are narrative-seeking creatures. It's humanity, man. And like, we exist in time. We tell stories. We want communities. And we want stories about our communities. So let me tell you where I'm getting with this. And please, open forum, ask questions of me when I'm talking about. I'm not a historian. I can't really call myself that. I've got one article published from decades ago. I made a play based on my own research. Hello, oh dear, I'm sorry, I don't speak Japanese. Sorry, but I hope you're interested. Konnichiwa. That's the only Japanese I know, unfortunately. But the fact that we're hello, ABZ edits. Hi, QB, random people. The Rizzler. Hello, Mr. Rizzler. ABZ edits. Hello. Random people. This is cool. Whoa. 16 people. And this is some language in Cyrillic. I'm not sure which one it is. Hi, all these random people. What's going on? Oh my gosh! Look, I wanted to set up this stream. Hello, Mr. Cheesy, Cheryl Bemis. I don't know who these people are. That's what's so crazy. And they don't know who I am. I'm just some guy with a beard. I'm a New Yorker, and I love history. I've got a lot of history books. Abs edits. Louise, when you're looking at my forehead. Random people. Random people just talking. That's crazy. I am not. Come on. ABZ edits. You just, why? Where are your roots? Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of roots, I'm here to talk about history, but I only have a bachelor's in history. I have a bachelor's in history and theater. And I thought that would make me, the reason my head is so big, there we go. There, see, my head's smaller now. And you can probably see, what is it, 250th anniversary of the Battle of Saratoga. I don't know, you're just saying random things. Oh my gosh, wow, lots of people. How many people? Oh, I'm getting random TikToks. 15. Oh my gosh, I'm losing focus here. I'm here to talk about history generally as a profession, as a field of human endeavor. I unfortunately cannot honestly call myself a full-on historian. No. See, I got a master's. I got it in theater. I wrote a historical play about the Congress of Vienna, but it's unproducible. So I've just been getting like books. I've been reading lots of books. Look, all these books. Some of them, I met, and the way it is people. What's this? Oh no, I got a big forehead. It's because I can't see very well. I can't see the tiny little words. The tiny little words. All these random people. It's like, do you just go on and search for streams? Is that what you do? I mean, I guess I'm an old fogey because, I'm new to the whole streaming thing. I tend to prefer video essays. I tend to prefer, scripted stuff, but I know that stuff is hard to make. I made a bunch of video essays about history, but do they really fit the standards? I'd like to think they do, but they probably don't, and the standards have gone up so high. There's the academic standards where everything has to be cited properly. For every claim, which is important. You have to know where the scholarship comes from. But, it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. And that is kind of a fundamental problem within history education. Hello, the Rizzler. I am shouting you out. Yay. Now, do you feel important? You're recognized. Does it feel good to be recognized? Oh, see, that's how it is, man. That's how the world is. People want to be recognized. They'll do all sorts of things to be recognized. I have a little over 400 subscribers, making me another one. Honestly, I don't really look. The numbers are good. The numbers are important, but it's quality over quantity. And I know, I'm just starting out with this YouTube thing. I've been doing it for over a year. Okay, QB, I'll shut you out. Man, is this what you guys say? You want to ask serious questions? So, I've done 2 streams already, and they were mainly about, history stuff. I did one at Francis Tavern, which is in Lower Manhattan, and it was where, what is this? What's going on? Oh, man. So this is all the struggle for recognition, right? Is this what's happening? Because I guess I got a question for all of you. What was your history education like? I love, John Hamilton. What is my purpose on YouTube? I mean, I guess I'm struggling for recognition too, just like everyone else. I'm still trying to find my voice, my focus. I've loved history, but I know, a lot of history falls into just feel-good nationalist stories. But it's more than that. I found this public historian, Ted, I forgot his last name, and he is a public historian who mainly looks at the American Revolution. I love that stuff. When you look at constructed national narratives, every nation does it for purpose of building itself, but that tends to come at the cost of uncomfortable truths. This human need to feel like a part of a community and feel like they're the good guys of existence. And that's not really encouraging truth as a value. It's encouraging feeling good. I mean, that's been true since modern nationalism has been developed in the French Revolution, the American Revolution in 19th century Germany, where a lot of the profession of history began, at least in the modern sense, with archiving and sourcing. Oh, what's this? When you see a historical channel, what do you immediately think about them? Brandon. Non-political, but no, non-historical versus non-political. Actually, I want to talk about the non-historical thing. Brandon, I've been sending you videos all day from this John Hopkins public historian, and you should reach out to him. Acton Shea Films, all of HistoryTube, the cynical historian, they should all reach out to this guy. And he should be reaching out to you. And the fact that, he has The public historian, has he reached out to you already? Has there been no, busy. I get it. Everyone's busy. Everyone's busy with their own stuff. And that kind of hurts public history's mission. It's busy work, even the busy work at the academic level, get in the way. No, you're not heard of him. Yeah, and that's a problem on both ends. That, like public history as a discipline, which is very important, but it's stuck in the academies. It's stuck in the museums, which is not a bad thing. These are very important. But this is the core problem of the 21st century, where the avenues of communication are more open than they've ever been, ever, which has lots of problems, but also lots of opportunities, where the silos between public history, school history, artistic approaches to history, historical aesthetics, those walls are coming down. And professional public historians need to seriously engage with this. I studied history and theater, and I thought that was what made public history, but it's not. And I think that's a failure of public historians. Oh, Reese! Hello, Reese. It is good to see you. Reese is how many books have you published, Reese? I know Brandon has published a book. Publishing, academia, everyone's kind of in the same boat. Our world, fundamentally, in the 21st century, one novel, 2 atlases. And oh man, I should have brought his atlases out there. I don't think I've read your novel, Reese. No, I think you sent it to me. But I definitely have your atlases. I gave them to a school I worked at. But what was the publishing process like? Do publishing and academia unhelpfully slow down the important process, the most important process, especially of a public historian, of knowledge exchange? Let me put it, barely good. Oh, royalties. Yeah, there we go. See, what Reese does is he wrote, was it Atlas of Forgotten Places, one which was kind of like a world map, and his latest one, which is more of a municipal map. Reese, you're a public historian. Brandon, you're a public historian. Both of you are, and I guess so am I, even though we don't have the degree. Look. Yeah, Atlas of Imagined Places, Atlas of Imagined Cities. Man, I wish the 15 people who were here earlier were seeing that. They were just saying, oh, notice me. It's like, why? Well, why notice me? Because I'm talking to you guys. Because, everyone's struggling for recognition. I use that term all the time. And it comes from Francis Fukuyama, End of History and The Last Man, which most people, they haven't read. They have this image of it, and that's not what it is. However, I've been, listening to an audiobook, The Reactionary Spirit, and by this famous journalist, I think Paul Beauchamp. I know that, I forget his first name, but it's on my phone. I don't know if I can change screens. I am new to this whole streaming thing. But man, so this historian, Ted, I've got his last name, but he's fascinating. He's got these great videos, and I want to talk to him. But why would he talk to me? I left a bunch of comments. I sent him messages. It's crazy. And he's probably annoyed. Who is this guy? Which is true. Who the hell am I? You got a bachelor's in history, a master's in theater. Who are you to talk about this? And that's the problem. That's the fundamental problem. Because, anyone can read a book. Anyone can read a book. Bookstores are avenues of public history alongside commercial spaces. And actually, this book here, Fighting Over Founders, by Andrew Shockett, which I'd love to talk to him. What's this? To do recognition, validation. Yes, Reese. You're 100% right. The struggle for recognition isn't about fame. It's about connection. It's about engagement, and you don't need to do it with big numbers. Because that's the thing with academia, isn't it? Because it's so expensive and so slow and so formal, which is not necessarily the expense is a problem, but people got to get paid. The slowness is to make sure everything runs smoothly. But if I wish people who are curious about public history would look at this book, Fighting Over Founders by Andrew Shockett. Because, like a lot of folks like me, maybe you, you're interested in history, you go into a bookstore, there's the history section with all these different books, and you think, oh, they're all wonderful, right? You know, they went through the publishing process, they went through peer review, they got, bibliographies, citations, all that stuff. But what Shockett here goes into is, but there are other factors at play. And I'm sure most academics are already familiar with this problem, which is you want to sell books. First and foremost, you want to sell books. And to do that, you can't really challenge narratives too much. And that has been the story of what has been called founders chic. Shockett, I'm going to show him again, talks about it. And according to him, there's been the academic field of looking at the American Revolution from like Merciodus Warren, like one of the first historians who had a big spat with John Adams. And she was also a playwright, and that was how I was introduced to her. But when not yet, no, you're right. Not even monetization. Fanfic, absolutely. Space battles. Yes, exactly. You're absolutely right. Engagement, validation. And that's the thing. Academics and enthusiasts, they're doing the same thing. Except, I guess, enthusiasts, they don't get paid for it. Unfortunately, they try to, at least, pay the bills. And, but it's for small audiences. Fame isn't the goal. Engagement is. And academics are doing the same thing. But it's slower. And it needs to be. But that means less stuff gets out, even if it's higher quality. And that is the fundamental tension in public history, isn't it? Like you could have a museum. You could have a historic site. You could have a reenactment society. And you're looking at my forehead so I can see the words. There's a way. No, you can make me bigger, but you can't make the words bigger. All right, this is such a fundamental issue. And I hope public historians are seriously dealing with it. I hope this... He's at Johns Hopkins. He's their head of... I don't know if he's the head, but he's involved in public history. And public history is so important because now anyone can be a public historian. And that's a danger and maybe not a danger, maybe an opportunity. They can go either way. Like you said, there are no gatekeepers. The role of academia is to be the gatekeeper, and no one likes gatekeepers. And the presence of gatekeepers, unfortunately, helps myths to fester. Because, those people in academia, who cares? They're not engaged with the public. We, the people, know. Those experts, what do they know? They're all focused on their academic theories. But what becomes a big problem is when there's, I don't even if consensus is the right word, but convergence. That's it, convergence. Because the other thing, if you just cite things correctly, but maintain a standard narrative, that's enough. And there's that assumption that, yes, the standard narrative is always what it was. And when it comes to national histories, religious histories, those are the most constructed narratives of all. They're the most prone to emotional manipulation for community management. I'm a white guy talking about this, and do I have a right to speak? Look, I did my bachelor's on theater during the American Revolution. And I didn't even take a class on it. I thought, well, why take a class? And it's probably just going to be more founder chic anyway. Or the revolution didn't go far enough because it didn't respect certain groups. And so the goal of American history is to fulfill that promise. And what a lot of public history is saying, no, it was never that at all. It was always just about independence. Ignore all the writings of Thomas Paine. It's just justification for power and authority, which Howard Zinn talks about. I don't think he's wrong. That seems sensible. That's just how power works. It wouldn't be a problem except there was a contradiction, with all the slavery and genocide on the one hand, and we're like advancing human civilization to another. But then it becomes even more complicated because the advancing human civilization is used as a justification for ending the slavery and genocide. So what's the public historian's goal? Is it, what's the word? Is it activism at the cost of truth? That's a problem because the truth might not go where the activism wants to go. So which do you hold? The truth or social activism, social progress? How do you resolve that problem? I guess that's what public historians need to do. They're saying, look, this is what the truth is. We start here, no matter how it makes anyone feel. And then when the truth is laid out, all properly cited and sourced, then we can look at our problems. But then you can't solve the problem. That's the fundamental contradiction. And, had I gone for a degree in public history, maybe that is what they engage with. Better or worse, civic history is a religion with holy texts, dogmas, creeds, and shibboleths. You're right. I mean, you mentioned "In God We Trust" as a credo. You probably know that wasn't the original motto. That was changed in the 1950s. And the Constitution was a contested document. You hear of, the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. And you usually don't hear much about the Federalists. Like, when I talk to, history people here in the city, they said, oh, yeah, good guys and bad guys. Like, really? That's what you're doing? This is how you're framing it? You're silencing all the Anti-Federalists? There's a problem with that. Because it creates, the inevitability of history. That, we are in the only world that is. That our world now was inevitable. Instead of our world now was the product of choices of the long dead, and the more recently dead to accept those choices or modify them for their own goals. And what's scary is, am I talking out of my ass? I'd like to think I'm not talking out of my ass. I have a bachelor's in history, but it was a mess, and it's my fault. So what right do I have to talk about history? But then you go into David Barton, the History Channel, and their job is to create the feel-good myths. And I know I'm not like them. I have the books. Sure, I didn't go through enough peer review, and that's my fault. We are creatures who frame our existence through narrative, and we prefer stories with simplified stakes, factions, good guys, bad guys, no ambiguity. And you're right, Reese, it dumbs it all down. But that is the key. Because dumbing things down makes stuff boring. So, I think a part of the activism that, public historians have to do is to be storytellers. That's what Tad, the John Hopkins guy, talks about. He's a real person. I'm just some guy. I'm just some guy with a big-ass library. A lot of books gone over years. I'm like, I gotta get this book. Without necessarily going through the academic peer review process. Well, what if this book is manipulative? But I knew some books were manipulative, I was like, I gotta see it anyway. And let me see. I will be right back. I'm finding a book that is relevant to this discussion. Yes, here it is. Okay. So, I'm showing you this. Whoops. Whoop. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I've been meaning to read this for years and I haven't. American Phoenix, about John Quincy and Louisa Adams during the War of 1812 in the Baltic. And it's by Jane Hampton Cook, and you know it's patriot chic. You know it's a patriotic myth. On the other hand, where else would you hear about this? You know? There has to be a way to square that circle. And, like, there's only 3 people watching, but 6 people liked it, so that's good. And, like, I'm going to archive this. It's fine. It'll be up on my channel. And the big question is, if anyone can be a public historian, we need to make sure that people know what it means to be a public historian. And that is what history teachers need to do. I mean, I trained for a while to be a history teacher, and I ran away like a coward. I was afraid of the constant judgment that I would be giving, that other people would give me. It's like, and you got to face that fear. He says that public engagement with history is so important. It's not just, throwing the coach to give you feel-good narratives. But surely the historical, boring perhaps for people with a passion for complex narratives, but good luck saying the duality of Abe Lincoln. The people who treat him as oh man, look. Reese, you know about Attaché Films, right? I've shown you Attaché Films' stuff, right? And he is very bullish on Lincoln. He thinks, Lincoln, great, awesome, crush these slaver rebels. But of course, that kind of absolves the whole rest of the country, doesn't it? But that's the big question. And I really want to know from anyone who sees this live or as a comment elsewhere, because I think this is important. I think it's something we should be talking about, no matter what level of history and history education you've engaged with. Oh man, now I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Is it better to have a feel-good period TV? You're right. Period TV is how you sell historical narratives, but it needs to be meticulously researched. And let me tell you, media about the American Revolution tends to be like the most mythologized because everyone thinks they know it. Because you learn it in grade school. You get all the these public sites. We know what the narrative is. I think even like less than focusing white supremacy. I mean, certainly that's part of it. But I think more of it is just the national narrative that's so ingrained, that's so deeply ingrained. And why would it be wrong? Isn't America founded on opposing absolute monarchy and imperialism? How would it not be? Wouldn't being against that being for absolute monarchy and imperialism? Well, that's funny because I got this book here. This guy, Eric Nelson, in Harvard, says, no, we got it all wrong. Got it all wrong. That the whole absolute monarchy thing was solved in the 1600s. And, in schools, when you learn about the 1600s, it's, the Puritans, the Pilgrims, Pocahontas, Virginia, and New England. Maybe if you're more advanced, like the Regulators, the Pequot and King Philip's Wars. But it's usually not transatlantic. Usually the English Civil War and Glorious Revolution are mentioned, even maybe in a transatlantic context, that, James II, the king who was overthrown in the Glorious Revolution, was also the Duke of York, who made New York, New York. Just showing the connections. And should public historians, and it'd be great if an actual public historian commented on this, should public historians be focused on showing global connections, showing internal divisions and connections, giving every person a story, which is, after all, what history is. It's not just about the funny-headed rulers. It's about just the guy plowing a field, running a ship, an enslaved person trying to survive. With the famous hero who's also a slave master. Aton Shea. I mean, it'd be great if he was here, because every history tuber is engaging with this question. And that means academic public historians should be engaging with history tubers. And the opposite should be true. Because, from what I've heard from the few public historians I've met, what's this? From the few public historians I've met or heard from, there is a silo. There is a canyon between the history that people do on YouTube because they're genuinely interested, that they want to get it right, and the academics where they have to get it right. But, oh man, it goes back to David Barton again, and it comes back to, the bookstore, the history aisle at the bookstore, where, people just publish stuff that feels good. It's about selling books. It's not necessarily about being right. And it's the same with YouTube. How do we solve this problem? I think it's a genuine problem. But is this something that I can solve? I'm just one guy. And I'm not even a guy with all the credentials. I just have a lot of books. And all those books I haven't read. I watch too much YouTube. I watch too much History Tube because I think it's valuable, because I search out the Aton Shea films. I search out the Brandon F's. I search out the cynical historians. But does that make me informed? Yeah, Checkmate Lincolnites. Checkmate Lincolnites is great because he meticulously researches stuff. He does the filmmaking and he does the research. He does both. And I tried to do that as a theater artist, and I haven't been able to make it work, and I think that's my own problem. But, a lot of other theater artists and film artists I talk to, they want to work in history. And they try their best to capture the truth and the narrative, which is what historical art is. But, again, I'm just some guy. I've written one article for Journal of the American Revolution I did 10 years ago. And I keep getting intimidated. And it's not good. I shouldn't be getting intimidated. It's I finally made a YouTube channel. I have some history content out there. It's not up to the highest standard. I'll freely admit that. But shouldn't there be a way to bring peer review and standards to the YouTube space? It's like a rating system or something. People who really want to be at least taken somewhat seriously, where you don't have to get an expensive degree, spend 4 years of your life, 2 years of your life in the stacks, as important as the stacks are. But if it's just stuck in the stacks and no one sees it, that's a problem. You've got all these academic journals. They're expensive. No one reads them, but academics have to be paid. Writers have to be paid. And how do we solve this problem as genuine lovers of history? DJ and Cat. Well-informed, you're right. It's a moving target. YouTuber historians are like authors. The more of them you dig into, the better informed you're going to do. You're 100% right, DJ and Cat. 100%. It's the same problem in a different medium. And, man, I really want academics to understand it, and that they're trying to. But so many people, they just go onto YouTube and they find history content. And at best, people like Aton Shea Films and Brandon F., they really try to get it right. They try to sort and cite properly. But they also have to make a video. At least with a book, with a monograph, even with a polygraph, an essay collection, it's just text. But, of course, in the 21st century, video making is text. Everyone has a camera. And our society hasn't really come to grips with that yet. That video communication is text. It's text all the way down. You're 100% right. Writing and filming are the same, but are they? They're not really the same, are they? Filming is much more powerful. Images are much more powerful than text, but nowhere near as precise. How have you considered? It's up, Reese. It's uploaded. DJ and Cat, it's uploaded. Playing at War. I have a whole playlist. A playlist called Revolutions. It has all my history videos. It has Playing at War on there. It's in actually 2 of my playlists. It's on my Dave's Public Performances playlist, where I got like cabaret shows and songs, and Playing at War's on there. It's on 2 of my playlists. You've seen it before. Some of you have not seen it, all 4 of you who are watching. But if this is an advertisement for the stuff I've been doing, awesome. But it's not enough, is it? It's not enough. I tried teaching. I always got intimidated by it. Because there's more to it than just talking and lecturing. That's generally the worst way for people to learn. It's DJ Cat, thank you so much, because you saw it at the original thing of it, and I haven't done it in 10 years. And I want to talk about where I feel very responsible for this. So, Lin-Manuel Miranda was planning on doing, this was in early 2015, of doing a production of it at the Morris Jumel Mansion in Upper Manhattan. And I was asked to take part. And I'd been through a terrible year. I lost a family member. And I just couldn't bring myself to perform. I was like in the doldrums. And had I pushed through, had I said, nope, doing Playing at War for Morris Jumel Mansion for the public, that might have changed a lot. Because I have big problems with Hamilton. Big problems. Colorblind casting, awesome. No problem with that. But the problem with Hamilton, there's 2. First, is it claims to be revolutionary because of its colorblind casting, when in fact it is hagiography. It is founder's chic. It's less critical. And that's especially, and this, even when I saw it, I was like, oh, come on. It's depiction of loyalism, of the British government, where it's like, oh yeah, the king is a crazy dictator. Like, no! If you really want to be a revolutionary about American historical narrative, that's what you have to drop. And that's what the Tad from Johns Hopkins talks about. Because I don't think progressives are getting that. You want to fight white supremacy. You want to destroy that idea. You have to delegitimize it. And you delegitimize it by kicking out its supports. And the core of that support is all the crimes done by America are justified because we were a revolutionary state against a brutal totalitarian dictatorship. Because most Americans, it's like maybe George III, who was like, the Declaration of Independence says he's a tyrant, which is the same as a dictator. And it was always thus. And then Churchill happened. If you want to defeat white supremacy, you have to look seriously at the British Empire. Look at it on its own terms. Instead of the most powerful empire of the world, the most powerful army. Like, come on, no. And it's a more interesting story anyway, because you don't know who's going to win. Instead of noble farmers rose up with all the power of goodness and all the ideals of Jefferson and Adams and all that. That is, de-sanctifying the revolution, not treating it as the birth of human freedom, might actually preserve human freedom. That's what it's coming down to, that like this worshiping, this emotional engagement. Oh, wait, no. The British Empire is only 200 years. See, I did not know that, DGen Cat. And if Brandon F. comes back, he might be interested in engaging with that. The British Army isn't this huge, big institution. The Navy is. But the Army, the quote, I think it's one of the pits, is it's a missile fired by the Navy. But that kind of breaks the idea of the invincible redcoats. It's like, yeah, and even the Museum of the American Revolution, like they're starting that process. I don't know if they're really that reactionary. They might become more so with the new guy. Yeah, it's about keeping the empire profitable. And that means, people in Ireland and India starve. That, the colonies in North America are handled by militias. You just negotiate with the native tribes instead of wiping them out. You already did that in the 1600s. That's why a transatlantic look at the 1600s will solve so many problems. So many problems. Because that's where John Locke and Thomas Hobbes, that's what they were responding to. That's why people were coming over, because, Britain and Ireland were, there's kind of a big civil war and revolution going on. 2 of them. And, I don't know, I think dividing colonial American history, you go 1607 to 1688, then 1688 to either 1754 or 1763. And where the glorious revolution, quote unquote glorious, it's not really glorious for the Irish or plenty of other people. And, what's this? But it would reveal a lot of uncomfortable truths. Yes! Revealing uncomfortable truths is the point. That's the whole point. Is school history meant to bind a people together like a religion? Or is public history to, here are all the nasty truths. You got to deal with them. And it all flips around. The right says, oh, yeah, serious truth, which means just brutality for its own sake, generally. But then when it comes to narratives, they get all gooey. Oh, you can't question our sacred narratives. We're the good guys of history. Come on. It's contradictory, internally contradictory. So, DGen Cat, I got a question for you. I've asked this to other friends of mine. How many of your friends even know what a parliament is? How many of your friends know what a parliament is? How many people in this country know what a parliament is? Congress is mom. Yes, see, of course, Reese, you'd know that because you're in a country with a parliament. What do you mean? Congress is the only legislature. The rest of the world is dictatorships, right? That's what I learned in my social studies class. That's what I learned in my government class. That's what you learn about in the American Revolution. The whole world is tyrants, and then America comes along, and then we're the only not tyrant, and that gives us license to do whatever the hell we want. Slavery? No, we're a free country. Genocide? No, we're a free country. So if you're trying to defeat those ideas, that's what you have to fight. You have to fight the idea of America was the only free nation in the world. Because if you look at British history, especially the 1600s, which most Americans say they don't do. If they look at anything, they look at the Tudors or they look at Churchill. They don't look at the Stuarts. And that is, I think, malpractice. Massive historical malpractice. When they look at the 1600s at all, they look at, Jamestown, Pocahontas, New England, the Puritans, maybe some of the Native Wars, probably the Salem witch trials, but they don't look at the English Civil War between actual absolutism and Parliament. So then when you get to the Revolution, it's like, oh yeah, no, we got to take the Declaration of Independence at face value. So, Reverend Docky, you'd be into loyalism. To some, that would be like, oh, so you're for absolute tyrannical dictatorship and totalitarianism? these distinctions tend not to be made. And they need to be made. And they're made by realizing that, and probably fled to Nova Scotia. Right, Nova Scotia, or the Bahamas, or what's it, not Liberia, Sierra Leone, or other places in the Caribbean, or Britain itself. Instructions for U.S. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got to look at that document. I'm sure you can find it. You can send it to me, you know? The great thing about the internet is, there's no gatekeepers. There's no gatekeepers. This is like an open communication line from everyone to everyone. And sure, for intellectual property lawyers, it's terrible. No, you have to create friction so you can profit from the friction. But the past 25 years have shown that that's not really morally tenable. It's like, no, you need maximum access to all things at all times and find other ways to profit to keep society running. That's why lots more people are into socialism. That's why. That's the appeal. It's like, look, the whole capital profit maximization, that's not promoting growth and development. It's stifling growth and development because everyone's worried about, making their next meal. And if people want to seriously engage with that, maybe some more New Deal perspectives and policies would be valid. But we're stuck in Reagan mind. We've been stuck there for 45 years. And it's justified by saying, there is no difference between FDR, Samuel Gompers, other Wobblies, Eugene V. Debs, and Stalin. Yes, civil religion, exactly. The role of the historian was, in the 19th century, to promote civil religion. Oh, but that's wild. Okay, 1942, U.S. troops in Britain guidebook. Yeah, I saw one of those, Army movies. All right, hey, you too, DGen Cat. Always a pleasure. Let's see if we can do some sort of stream together. I have OBS on my laptop. I tried streaming on my laptop. I couldn't figure it out. But I have the software. I just got to get it working. That'd be fun. That would be a lot of fun, actually. Oh dear, I completely lost my train of thought. Atlantic history. Atlantic pragmatic history. DGen Cat. Of course I know who you are, Reverend Daka. Duh. Man, it'd be nice. So at the beginning of this stream, it was like a bunch of random people and all these languages, Japanese, something in Cyrillic. And they was like, oh, recognize me. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. But I want to talk about real stuff where you guys are just staying talking about real stuff. And that's what I care about. And that's what's cool. Yes, yeah, yes, the Meredith Burgess ones, and they did one about Britain, and I think they talked about that. They didn't specifically mention the people's budget fights in 1910 and 1911, which is super not well known over here. Maybe the 1832 Great Reform Act, but not the revolutionary summers of 1910 and 11. And wait a minute, there was other stuff going on in 1910 and 11. You had China collapsing. The Qing dynasty finally falling. You had revolution in Mexico. You had Portugal had already gotten rid of their monarchy. It's funny. In a 15-year period, going from 1910 to 1925, so many old regimes collapsed. Even more than in World War I. If you broaden it to a 15-year period, it's wild. It's good. It's a good thing to look at the whole 20th century from the First World War to the collapse of the Soviet Union. That's called the short 20th century. And it's a good framework, but I got a better one for you. Going from the Congress of Berlin in 1884, where the now unified into big empires, European states, said, let's partition Africa. And starting there, not even with the First World War, not even with the death of Queen Victoria, but with the 1884 Berlin Conference. And then going all the way from there to the Schengen Treaty in 1992. And I'm sure someone's figured that out, maybe like Odd Arn Westenders, like his stuff. But that actually has the most explanatory power instead of just starting with the First World War. No, you start with the partition of Africa, and you end with the Europeans finally figuring out, yeah, we can't do global imperialism anymore. Let's just be a whole continent working together. And that's kind of the story of the 20th century, because that's where everything else springs from. And you don't get yes, you're 100% correct. Ending the 20th century in the early 90s. Is it from? Yes, from the scramble for Africa to the return of Hong Kong. That's a good time frame. That is a good time frame. Most people don't think of it like that because they just focus on the wars, and the wars are really important. The wars are engaging. The wars are exciting. They're narrative and powerful. Not just World War II, all of them. But they're also limiting because you're stuck in Clausewitz mind. You're stuck in Prussian military mind. The states exist to fight other states. And over the course of this idea of the 20th century, yes, exactly. Basically what you're doing is you are separating cultural time frames from like calendars. Exactly. That is excitement is what fiction is for. That's what the arts are for. Arts are about engagement. I think it was like a couple years later. Oh, I forget the exact. I know we got rid of Bismarck in like 1890. So it was a little bit after the Berlin Conference. And then you get Nicholas II, who people worship for some stupid reason. It's like, it's better than the communists. I don't know. Like you hear from the Black Hundreds, like they're proto-fascists. But of course, that gets back to our initial question. When we talk about these big events, these revolutions, like everyone assumes that everyone knows what the story is. When no, these stories are contested. The big revolutions are contested. That's what makes them interesting. But that's also what makes them, with all these different narratives, except with the American Revolution. That's the only place where it doesn't happen. But, with 1888, there we go. So let's do the history, big revolutions, Mike Duncan thing. Starting with 1917. Actually, no. Let's start with 1989. There's only really two big narratives. The world is free because communism is over, which is the standard narrative. But then there's the Michael Parenti narrative that no, this is a terrible Western conquest. That like communism was actually working and like it would have been developed, but there's all this constant warfare. And the West won, and that's bad, actually, because like now there's no desire for the state to serve the people. It's all good, DACA. Very few, Reese. Very few Americans know the difference between February and October. So many people from a variety of political backgrounds think Lenin overthrew the Tsar, which is wrong. Reese, did you see my video on the Russian Revolution? Neither Tsar nor Lenin, focused on all the other factions. Is the train a play or a movie, DACA? Because I remember hearing a play, but it might have been a movie. Yes, but it didn't really work. Kerensky, he was trying to be like a moderate social democrat. But it was Kerensky, there was the SRs, there were the Mensheviks, there were the anarchists, there were various nationalist movements, there were peasants saying, just leave me alone. And that's usually how these things go. And then you got the whites, man. And the whites are good because only communists can be evil. It's like, no, the whites were horrible. And, I had an ancestor who fled the Reds. And I still think the whites were horrible. Oh, I lost my. So yeah, 1917, much more complicated. Most people forget everything before the French Revolution, 1789, and there you got a whole variety of different perspectives. It's like you get the Tradcath, everything was perfect, every human was part of the holy hive mind, and then those evil revolutionaries who didn't love the Roman Catholic Church destroyed everything. And it's like, no. But then there's the revolutionary vision. It's like, all French existence was suffering, but then the revolution came and saved everything. Well, that's nonsense, too. And the best way to look at it is it's the collapse of the system built by Louis XIV. Because it was only 3 people between Louis XIV and Louis XVI. And Louis XV, he was like, yeah, whatever. While Frederick the Great in Prussia was like, let's modernize things. Catherine the Great in Russia, let's modernize things. You saw, I put the Age of Revolutions. I started in 1740. I probably should have started it in like 1715 or 1688. That's like usually the start of it. But I can defend starting the Age of Revolution. You're right. It's not the screen. It's what we do with the screen. Quality, not quantity. So narratives of revolutions. And so we go to the American Revolution. And so over the weekend, I went to an event at Francis Tavern in Lower Manhattan, which is a cool place. And this was the reenactment of Washington saying goodbye to his troops. It was like some guys in Continental Army uniforms, very fancy. And I kind of had my own agenda there, as most people do. But it was mostly gray hairs, mostly older folks. And that sucks and it's sad, isn't it? Because you want people to seriously engage with history. But if it's just boring nationalist feel-good nonsense, it's boring. Whereas, if you engage with, there were multiple narratives. The more you look at the American Revolution, the more fascinating it becomes. Hello, Dylan May. Okay. Oh, Dylan May, it's good to hear from you. We've spent the past almost hour talking about history, public history. Dylan May, how much British history do you know? I know you're a train guy. You probably know maybe about the Great Western Railroad, Eisenbarth Kingdom Brunel, the nationalization under Clement Attlee, privatization under John Major, the Beeching Report. These all make sense to you, right, Dylan May? As someone in our, Anglophile rail enthusiast community. Yep, you know about all this stuff. Well, Dylan May, I got a question for you. What do you know about American railroads on this continent? Why do we have Amtrak? Why are American railroads the way they are? See, that's the problem. Waiting for the response. Sorry, yes, I'll ask again. Why are American railroads the way they are? I know from being in, Railway Series Thomas fandom, we have an insight into the development of British railroads and their history. But what about American railroads? Why do we have Amtrak? There was a big event. I'll ask again. Why do we have Amtrak now? You can say, I don't know. That's fine. Because it proves my point. I'll ask one more time, just in case you didn't hear. Why do we have Amtrak now? Tell you what, I'm going to put my phone down. Whoop. Why do we have Amtrak? I got the answer for you right here. I guess you couldn't figure it out, that's fine. That shows. Oh, yeah, you never thought about it. But Dylan May, you know about the Grouping Act, right? The British Grouping Act. I mean, yes, Reese, but there's another big reason. It's related to that. I'll just tell you. The wreck of the Penn Central. Yeah, it's related to that. So basically, Dylan May, you've heard of the Pennsylvania Railroad, right? Is that name, yeah, no, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Yes, you did, hold on, let me take a look. Where did you mention the wreck of the Penn Central? I didn't see it. Ooh. Yeah, so it wasn't just the collapse of the Pennsylvania Railroad. It was the merger of the Pennsylvania Railroad and the New York Central. And it was the biggest merger in history and the biggest bankruptcy in history up to that point. Two big companies collapsing and railroad companies. So the government stepped in with Conrail for freight and Amtrak for passengers. Gentleman Johnny versus Gates. Okay. Yes. Yes. Saratoga 250. I mean, that's probably gonna be a lot more founder chic stuff. I hope it won't be. But I'm trying to make a point, Thomas fans who are watching. Because we love the Railway series, we know more than most other people about British railway history, even if it's the most basic stuff. We know what the Great Western Railroad was. Railway, whatever. I mean, yes. Don't you know the most evil communist was Clement Attlee? I don't know about that. See, I don't really know about, the engines and the stores. That probably inspired Wilbur Audrey. But, learning about the wreck of Penn Central, I'm only, halfway through the book. But it was, such a big event. Tsar versus Putin, dusty oat milk. What about Tsar versus Putin, dusty oat milk? What about it? I mean, does Putin want to be the Tsar? Does Putin want to be Stalin? Does he want to be Putin? Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, exactly, Dylan May. But do you apply that knowledge to American? Should America have its own version of the Railway series? With an E2 or a Black 5 replaced with a GG1 or an F unit or a big boy? But of course, America's a lot bigger than Sodor is. Do you see the point I'm trying to make, Dylan? That, look, our fandom, we do a lot of really amazing things. With a lot of, tools and toys. And they're fantastic. But I don't think anyone yet has applied that to its full potential. See, during Eisenhower, though, there was still a rail system. Yes, Eisenhower did end up killing the rails. I don't think that was his plan. It might have been other people's plans, but I don't know about Eisenhower. Maybe. And even Nixon was an investor in the Penn Central. But I got to finish that book. See, we're doing public history. Yes, Reese, you told me about Point 007 by Rudyard Kipling. I still need to read it. I got to do a reading of it and put it on my channel. I think people would find that very interesting. And, I know enough people who do animation. I just got to read the darn thing. I've been thinking about reading this play written in Britain during the American Revolution called The Lecture on Heads. I kept meaning to read it. I never got around to reading it because I get distracted so easily. Of course, I can apply IRM. Oh. Yeah, no, exactly. It's you probably know more about this original. Oh, yeah. Yeah. like, we in the States need our own version of the Railway series. That's the main point. And like us in Thomas fandom, it's funny. Like, we've got our own thing, and the rail activists, the urbanists, they have their own thing. I sent the armchair urbanist. I sent him our Bible. I sent them, the complete Audrey Railway series. You have Wilbert, not his son Christopher, because that's hard to find. And I said, hey, I sent this to you. Like, this is what makes foamers, Alan. This is what does it. And I don't know. I think you got a lot of other stuff to worry about. But we in the Thomas fandom don't talk to urbanists, and we need to change that. That's us doing public history through art. Wilbur Audrey was doing public history through art. Why didn't you use bolt actions? Oh boy, man. That's a great question. By 1860, I think only Prussia had bolt actions. Maybe France did as well. Oh man, no, you know who you should ask about that? Dusty Oat Milk. Ask, okay, I know about Simon's American Railroad Stories. Dylan, you have my contact info. You have my messenger. Please send that to me. Send me American Railroad Stories, because that sounds fun. Yeah, why? So Dusty Oat Milk. Atten Shea has a video about Civil War firearms with the famous Martini Henry rifle with all the different rifles and rifle muskets. You should watch that. Comment on my video on this when I upload it, and I'll post a link to it. See, I love this. I love this open communication forum. It is global communication, and it flows like a river. Information flows like a river, like water. Seems kind of Taoist, I guess. I bought a small Tao. I'll be right back. Where is it? Ah, here it is. Okay. I don't know. I'm interested in religious. I was a hardline atheist, and I still am, but studying religious texts as literature, as part of the human condition, like that's neat. So I got a copy of the Tao Te Ching. Just to, it's sayings, contradictory sayings to build to understanding, which is kind of neat. Dylan, I do voiceover. I don't know, maybe they're looking for people. I'm happy to provide my voice. That's actually my voice instead of, me doing a different voice, somewhere across the pond or what have you. All right, we've been doing this for an hour, 7 minutes. I'm cool doing it another hour. What about you? Speaking of sacred texts, hold on. I'm revealing things. Oh my goodness, hold on, one sec. Okay. So, you guys probably all know about the Old Testament, right? The Old Testament, well, we Jews don't call it the Old Testament. We call it the Tanakh. It's the Torah and like two others. I'm not really making my way through it, but I want to look at, the book of Samuel. Because like when I was a kid in Hebrew school, I hated Hebrew school. But one thing that I enjoyed was to do what you're being free. All right. Dusty Oat Milk, are you talking about the Internet Archive? Because I strongly believe in open access. I'm a firm believer. Right, the Old Testament. Yeah. See, the only thing I read of the New Testament was in medieval history. It was the Gospel of Mark. But that's it. And I'm not a religious guy. But I'm interested in religion from a historical perspective. Like, what did people do? I took one religion class. Like, religion is what people do. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That's a good framework. All right, Dylan. Yes. See you later. Okay, Dusty Oat Milk. American Railroad series. That'd be fun. Hold on. Okay. Wait, Dylan, before you go, 1 sec. I got more books. My apartment is filled with books. when railroads were new. And the American Railway. It's so many books. I'll never finish them all. I just showed you. I just showed you some books. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I'll show them to you. 1 second. There we go. Books. Books for days. Books for days. Books on trains. Yep. Here we go. And the Wreck at Penn Central. All three of them. There we go. That's it. That's it, Dylan May. That's it. So what I really want to do, I got to get into game streaming. I got all these historical strategy games. And like most people, what do they mostly stream? What, like Fortnite? Minecraft? I mean, they're fine, I guess. But maybe getting some guys together, doing a strategy game together, that'd be fun. Like they've got Command & Conquer Generals. That's fun. You know, Command & Conquer Generals, it's tankies versus neocons versus Islamists. So that's wild. I remember, what's it called? Command & Conquer Generals. But if you really want to know a fun historical strategy game, Cossacks. Especially Cossacks 2, but I don't know if the multiplayer for it works. Cossacks 3 has multiplayer, but it's not as good. And now that GSC Game World has finished Stalker 2, and they're going to support it for at least like a while. But I hope that when after they're supporting Stalker 2, they go to Cossacks 4. And what I hope with that is they combine all the Cossacks games with the American Conquest games. And they have the combat systems and the road systems and the resource systems. 5 people, wow. And the resource systems of Cossacks 2. But like more 17th century stuff from 3. And then 18th century stuff as well. And then like these units, like these big things you have to control. It's really cool. There's other cool games coming out. Fire and Maneuver, that everything was great about that except the core gameplay. Manifest? No. Justified? No. Pragmatically, like this is just what empires do. Yeah, it wasn't justified. You know, it was brutal and nasty, but that's the state for you. That's just what they do. So in the movie, the first night at the museum movie, they had America doing Manifest Destiny and Rome conquering. And they said they were equivalent. And it's like, oh, yeah. You know, American exceptionalism is not a viable idea. It needs to be done away with. It's not. And I talked about this at the beginning of the stream, where American exceptionalism gives the idea that all the world was a dictatorship except America. And that's a great way to justify slavery and genocide and conquest. Versus, like the progressive vision is, no, America is a uniquely evil society. And that's hard. That's also kind of hard to justify. Not because of, the nationalist reason. Oh, yeah, freedom here. No. Like, slavery was pretty common. It was only really by the 1820s and 30s that it started to disappear. And yeah, it stayed on in this country for 30 years longer. And in Brazil for 20 more years longer than that. And none of them had to fight a war over it. I lost my train of thought again. Trains of thought. I want to do like 2 of these a week. I was going to do like an open mic night, but I got other stuff I got to take care of. But doing this is fun. I enjoy it. I get more people to come. Tell people about this, but I guess because I don't do it at the same time. I mean, I'll probably do it again on Wednesday. Any more questions? I'm happy to answer history questions. So a friend of mine, like whenever he has a history question, he calls me. And I was like, oh, I don't really know, unless it's something I really do know. And then I give him a basic explanation, but that's what gets to the public history question. Because it's usually reliant on knowing someone who knows things. And that someone might not have a degree. I have a bachelor's degree. I have plenty of books. I haven't written that much or much at all. That was a long time ago, and I got to get back to writing. It's not easy. 3 people are watching. Oh man, I'm kind of running out of steam here, guys. I'll give you a couple minutes to ask more questions, but I think this is a good place to stop. Anyone? Dylan, are you back? Dusty Oat Milk? Oh, wow. Okay, so an hour and 15 minutes with 7 likes. Oh, thank you for the 7 likes. Yeah, I think I'm almost positive that's true. Yes. Yeah. I'm just happy listening to. Yes. Well, there are people who can just talk and talk and talk and talk for hours. I appreciate that. Yeah, Reese, you probably know the answer to that question above. It wasn't his son. That was Napoleon II, and he lived in Vienna, and I think he died at some point. But the real one is Napoleon III, the nephew, and I think he had a kid, and he was the one who died in the Zulu Wars. And yeah, just sitting and talking, but it's easier when it's someone I can work off of. That's why most podcasts are two-handers. So I need some. Reese, you want to do a podcast with me? I mean, I have OBS software. I have a mic, but it's a mic I stand up and perform at it. I need a sit-down mic. Oh, your game. Oh, cool. Reese, are you a gamer? You're not much of a gamer, are you? Like, you got your certain things you enjoy. Yeah. But at a certain point, I run out of steam. The people who can do this all day. Why didn't the U.S. go first? That is a great question, Dusty Oat Milk. When in the 1880s, there was just not an interest. But then that interest came in like the decade after. Not massively sit and chat, nerd. I love that. I just got to figure out how to do it. I got to set up OBS. Exactly. Like, we didn't need Africa. We had our own continent to dominate. Whereas the European powers, they were smaller. Like, they had to, well, they didn't have to, but they thought with the Clausewitzian Prussian model of the state, it's like state capacity to destroy other states. And unfortunately, that idea is still staying on into the 21st century. And hopefully in this decade, it'll either intensify or finally die. But it might die hard. Yeah, exactly. South and Central America. Okay. I've been doing this. No. This is just a land grab. Land grabs aren't justified. Don't worry about justified. State's gonna state. I mean, no. No. It's just filling space. Painting in the map with your color. Oh, but we're the only democracy. Well, that's a great way to justify land grabs. French Republic was the same way. Oh, we're leading the world. Let's eat places. Being sarcastic here. Let's eat Belgium. Let's eat the Swiss. Let's eat Italy. For the glory of human freedom. No. Enrichment. Okay. Well, it's been fun, but I think I'm going to call it a night. But thank you. I might do this on Wednesday. Oh, it's just Puerto Rico, yes. D.C. should be part of Maryland. Probably Maryland. I'll solve it. Well, not really. Nothing is ever solved. But, guys, it's been fun. Been doing this 90 minutes. Not 90 minutes, 80 minutes. But it's been fun. Have a good rest of your evening. Peace out.